Please be seated. The chamber is now back in session, and we'll give the floor to the co-prosecutor to put question to this witness. You may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good afternoon. We were talking about the meeting you attended at which the district chief provided instructions on the types or categories of people to be purged. And I had asked you for your recollection as to who district chief or which district leaders were present at that meeting. I'd like to read to you from your interview E319.1.21, and it answers 35 through 39. You testified that the person who chaired that meeting was District Com Chim. At question and answer number 37, question, what was the name of the District Com? Answer, his name was Chim. And at question and answer 39, question, did Chim, the district committee, tell the participants of those meetings about the types of people that had to be purged? Answer, yes, he did. Does this refresh your recollection that the district chief who chaired the meeting identifying the groups to be purged was Chim?
Answer, yes. It was Jim who addressed the meeting at that time.
And do you remember, was Chai also present at this meeting?
Answer, yes. Tajai was also in the meeting.
Now, you indicated that at the same meeting, and this is from E319.1.21, answer 43, you testified that you heard people from Kampuchea Krom were accused of being Yun spies, and that the Khmer Krom had to be killed. The evidence that's been admitted by this chamber includes lists from 6 different communes identifying Khmer Krom, prepared in the same time period as the Lon Nol documents we just looked at, that is April to May 1977. I don't want to tire you out looking at too many documents, but with your leave, Mr. President, I'd like to provide 2 of the Khmer Krom lists to the witness, starting with E32281, E32281. With your leave, Mr. President.
President, you may proceed.
Mr. Witness, the document that's just been presented to you is a report signed by a cadre Mon, dated the 4th of May, 1977, which is titled List of Kampuchea Krom People from Trapeang Tom Chung Commune, your commune. And it identifies 73 Khmer Krom families living in that commune, including their former occupation and the ranks of those who were former military. First, can you tell us who was Mon, the person who signed this report?
Answer, Mon was the commune chief of Trapeang Tom Kang Chung.
And was Mon one of the commune representatives who was present at the meeting you've described where instructions were provided on groups to be purged?
Answer, yes, he was there.
Can you take a look at this list, and are you able to tell us whether the Khmer Krom families on this list were people who were originally from Trapyang Tom Chung commune, or whether they were people who had been evacuated and relocated to the district from Phnom Penh, Kampuchea Krom, or other areas?
Answer, I have forgotten all these people. I do not know whether the names here refer to those who were from Kampuchea Krom. I do not know them all.
I'd like to show you, and now, Mr. Witness, two documents from Popple commune. Mr. President, these are E3/2262 and E3/2917. With your leave, if I may provide these documents to the witness.
President, you may proceed.
Mr. President?
President, you may proceed, Mr. Kope.
Thank you. Just some clarification from the prosecution. I believe the witness was just shown E3/2281. And did I get that right? And the witness was told that this list consists of Kampuchea Krom families. But to be honest, I don't see that in that document. So if the prosecution would be so helpful as to tell me where he sees Kampuchea Krom on this document.
Yes, I'd be happy to. This is one of these documents where there's a difference in translations. In the Khmer original, you can see Kampuchea Krom. The French translation has Kampuchea Krom. The English translation appears to have missed that. So it is there. It just was something that was missed in the English translation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Prosecutor, for this explanation, but this is really getting troubling. Yesterday, we still haven't heard back, by the way, Mr. President, from the IT unit on this, but there seems to be a big discrepancy between the French translation of the original Khmer document and the English translation. Yesterday we talked about the word eliminated, and that word appeared, I think, about 20 or 40 times in the French text. It didn't appear at all in the English text. Besides the question if the abbreviation KT should not just be literally translated as KT, and that the interpretation of what KT means should be left to the parties in their closing submissions to argue. But these are all kinds of questions related to this document. If now another essential ingredient of this document seems to be lost in the English translation, which is, after all, a working language, I think we're having substantial problems. We are working in English, so we must count on the fact that it is a literal translation, and that the French and the English translations are the same.
Mr. President, if I may, I don't want to dwell on this very long. This is certainly an issue that can be addressed. There are procedures for this. There are many, many thousands of pages that have been translated in the case file. No one is perfect, And when these discrepancies arise, they can be submitted to CMS and corrected. It's part of the purpose of these court proceedings. So we've identified one. CMS can look into it and make the necessary corrections.
True as that may be, if I hadn't risen, then if I hadn't paid attention, then this would have probably gone past us. I don't think it's a detailed problem or a marginal problem. It's a very fundamental problem. There should be no mistake. There should be no misunderstanding whatsoever between with the translations. That is a fundamental issue which possibly affects this witness and upcoming witnesses. So to stand now and compare it with all the other 1,000 documents, I don't think that is fair. បាទហើយ
President, in relation to this matter, the first document, that is Khmer document, the Khmer document is the original document, so we need to rely on the original document, that is Khmer document, the Khmer version. And I believe the co-prosecutor is aware of the discrepancy of translation between English and Khmer, and also the French. And I note that the co-prosecutor does not notify the ITU concerning the matter, and they allow this matter to arise again and again. And the chamber now instruct to the parties, and particularly the co-prosecutor, that if they find any discrepancy in relation to the document, they may notify the ITU. And as for the defense teams, I encourage the National Council to notify, to inform their colleagues concerning the word used and also the translation, so that the proceeding can move smoothly. The chamber has taken action on this matter again and again, and we asked the senior legal officers to coordinate with the CMS and particularly ITU to deal with the matter. We have tried working very hard on the matter, and the problems still occur. And I hope that after I give my instruction, it is good for our future practice. You may now proceed, co-prosecutor.
And we'll certainly do our best to make sure that all significant discrepancies are brought to the attention. Mr. Witness, I just provided you with two documents from Popple Commune. Document E3/2917 is a report that was sent from Popple Commune in early May 1977 that refers to 64 Khmer Krom families who had been received in an exchange with Vietnam. And document E3/2262 is a list identifying 64 Khmer Krom families living in that same commune, Popple Commune, including their former occupation. You have stated in interview E319.1.21 at answer 97 that a group you called the new Khmer Krom people, meaning those who had just come to live there, not the ones who had been living in the villages for a long time, end of quote, were particularly targeted by the Khmer Rouge. My question for you is, did the new Khmer Krom people who you said were targeted include people who had been obtained in exchanges or trades with Vietnam?
Answer. As for the issue of exchanges or trades with Vietnam, I was not aware of it. I only knew that the wife and the husband, together with no children, came to the place, and they were the targets.
Could you explain a little further as to who the people were who you observed were targets?
Answer. The targeted people were the Cambodia Crown people. Whether the husband and wife came with children or with no children, they were identified as a UN spies agent, or they were identified as KGB agents.
And what was the significance of whether they had children or not?
Answer. For those who came in the place with no children, they came to work at that place according to the orders from the top.
Okay, we've seen, I've shown you two examples of the lists that were compiled by communes identifying Khmer Krom. Do you remember at the meeting you attended or at other occasions whether there were instructions given to register or prepare lists of the Khmer Krom people living in each commune?
Answer. There were meetings instructing commune and village chiefs to prepare the lists, and the list had to be sent upwards.
And do you remember who it was that gave the instruction to the commune chiefs to prepare these lists?
The district committee.
I want to ask you now about a couple of statements you made in your OCIJ interviews. First, at interview E3/5511, answer 10, you made the following statement, quote, "Vietnamese people were not mentioned in the conference, but later on all Vietnamese people who lived in the village disappeared." End of quote. My question for you is, where were these Vietnamese people living who disappeared, and when was it that they disappeared?
Answer. Those Vietnamese people disappeared at night time or during the time that they were working in the field or in the canal work sites. These people were called out and then they were taken away.
And in interview E319.1.21, referring you to question and answer 103, reads as follows. Question: how did you know that Khmer Krom people were sent to Krang Tachan prison or prison 204? Answer: I did not know about Krang Tachan prison, but I knew they were imprisoned at prison 204 because my hospital was located along the roadside. One day, I saw a group of over 20 people being escorted on foot from Kiravong district. They stopped at my place to ask for medicines. I asked them what was happening to those people, and they said they were all KGB and UN spies, and they stated that the people were being sent to prison 204. Can you first tell us, where was prison 204 located? How far away was it from your hospital?
Answer. It was in Preduit commune, currently Osarai commune. It was about 17 or 18 kilometers away from my hospital at that time.
Do you remember what year it was when you saw this group of 20 people being arrested and taken towards Prison 204?
Answer: I did not recall the year. I never think of it.
And I wanted to clarify one thing. Did you believe that this group of 20 prisoners was Khmer Krom? Were you told that they were Khmer Krom? Or was all you were told by the cadres who arrested them that they were people accused of being KGB or UN spies? Can you clarify that for us?
Answer: what I knew is that I was told that these people were Khmer Krowns, and I was not told that these people were KGB or CIA. I was just told that they were Khmer Krowns. There were the people who escorted those people to the prison, and the people who escorted those Khmer Crown came to me and asked for medicines.
And do you know that the people who were escorting these prisoners, were they district cadres from Tram Kok? Were they sector cadres? Who were these people?
Answer: I do not know their names, but I was told that they were from Kiriwong district, that is District 109.
And do you know whether Prison 204 was a district prison, a sector prison, or a zone prison?
Answer: I did not know whether Prison 204 was zone, sector, or district prison. But this Prison 204 was in District 105.
Did you visit the Prison 204 site after the fall of the Khmer Rouge regime? And if so, can you tell the court what you saw when you visited that site?
Answer: Prison 204, the buildings was in bad condition. There were two small buildings, roof with leaves, and the buildings were in bad condition. I went to farm near the place. Some farmers went to work on their farm in the area, and they found some bodies and also some scalps.
Did you see these human remains yourself, or were you just told about them?
After I returned from clearing the forest for a plantation, I saw a few skulls there and some other skeleton remains. However, they were the skeleton remains of a few people and not many. And I believe they were thrown away by the peasants who got it from the rice fields that they planted the rice.
Thank you. Another group of people that you said the district leaders instructed were to be purged were, and I quote from your answer that I've read before, people who went around speaking against the Khmer Rouge, end of quote. Mr. President, at this time I'd like to provide to the witness, with your leave, document E3/4093, E3/4093.
Yes, you may proceed.
Mr. Witness, I'm giving you two documents from E3/4093. The first, Khmer 00270-786 through 87, English 00831-486, French 00729-674. This is a letter from Tassan dated the 7th of August, 1978, providing instructions to sweep clean the widows from Trapiang Tom Kang Chung, who are currently staying at the place of Comrade Ming. And the other document, Khmer 00270-788 through 89, English 00831-487 through 88, and French 00729-674 through 75, contains a note from Meng dated the 8th of August, 1978, and appears to attach a report from Trapiang Tom Chung regarding 5 widows who had criticized the revolution and planned to flee to Vietnam. My first question is, did you know who Comrade Meng was?
No, I did not know this person.
Do you know whether there was a unit called a widows unit in Trapiang Tom Chung commune?
Yes, there was a widow unit.
And can you explain what was the widows unit?
A widows unit comprised of those widows whose husband died, or who husband or that they were no longer with their husbands, and mostly they were women from Phnom Penh.
Do you know why these women were put in a separate unit?
I did not know the reason for this widows unit.
I'm going to refer now to a statement from your DC CAM interview, D313/1.2.409. This reference is at Khmer 00418-846, English 00431-487, 729063, and French 00808-645. And you made the following statement at that part of your DC-CAM interview, quote, "In political and enemy terms, there were so-called enemies allegedly infiltrating among patients or following one another. We were ordered to identify such enemies." My question to you is, who was it that ordered the district hospital to identify enemies amongst patients?
It was the district committee or district secretary.
Was there a particular district chief who provided this instruction, or was this something that was instructed by all the people who served as district chief?
There was a general instruction for all, including the hospital, regarding this matter.
I'd now like to ask you a few questions relating to a couple of issues of the CPK publication Revolutionary Flag. With your leave, Mr. President, I'd first like to provide to the witness the April 1977 issue of Revolutionary Flag, which is document E3/742.
Yes, you may proceed.
Mr. Witness, this document is the April 1977 issue of Revolutionary Flag. April 1977 is a time period we have been discussing in the documents I've been showing you today. And if you'd start by looking at the very end of this issue, at the last page or second to last page, at the end of this issue, the party cadres were provided the following instruction, quote, "Number one, every base area and every unit must organize the study of this document. Number two, it is imperative to organize that study primarily collectively. Then there must be additional study by group or individually." End of quote. And I'd like to read a couple of passages to you from the April 1977 issue of Revolutionary Flag to see if you recall ever receiving instruction on these matters by the leaders of Tramcock District. The first reference is at Khmer 000-62986, English 00478-496, and French 00499-754, which contains the following statement, quote, "As for the enemies that are CIA, KGB, and UN agents, the cheap running dogs of the enemy that sneakily embed inside our revolution and our revolutionary ranks," continuing below, "we must continue to strike them and trample them from our position of absolute advantage and must constantly be on the offensive against them during 1977 to smash them even more so they cannot raise their heads." End of quote. The second passage I want to refer you to is at Khmer 000629991, English 00478 and French 00499 which reads as follows, quote, "It is imperative to indoctrinate and whip up the masses into a force to seek out the enemy, assess the enemy, analyze the enemy, track the enemy, pressure the enemy, capture the enemy, to smash the enemy, and to make the enemy be like a rat surrounded by a crowd of people beating and smashing it," end of quote. And the last passage I want to refer you to is at Khmer 0006299 English 00478 and French 00499 which reads as follows, quote, "Each location must take the leadership role to push the mission profoundly in order to further seize, expand, and increase the power of socialist revolution. So the power of socialist revolution will trample the enemy and trample the remnants of the various oppressor classes, trample the remnants of the various private ownership regimes, and smash them to bits to prevent them from being able to raise their heads no matter where they are, even if they are at some small location," end of quote. Mr. Witness, do you recall issues like this being discussed at any of the district meetings you attended?
On the issue of the Revolutionary Flag magazine, personally, I never saw it during the regime.
Do you remember, was the Revolutionary Flag ever read at any of the meetings you attended, read by the district leaders?
No, I never heard them saying anything regarding this matter.
Do you remember receiving, aside from the issue of Revolutionary Flag, do you remember receiving instructions or directions along the lines of what I just read? That is, that cadres were to be on the lookout for enemies.
No.
Mr. President, the next two documents I would like to provide to the witness are E3-135, E3-135, and E3-289. E3-135 is the July 1977 Revolutionary Flag. E3-289 is a copy of a Democratic Kampuchea radio broadcast.
Yes, you may proceed.
Mr. President, I have an objection. We have just established that the witness has never seen a revolutionary flag. I know you allow witnesses to be shown documents that we haven't established before that they actually have seen it. But now that we have established it, I don't really see the point in showing him a revolutionary flag again. So I object.
Mr. President, these are two different documents that announced the award of the honorary red flag to Tramcock District. It was done both through Revolutionary Flag and on the radio. So I've given the witness both documents to see whether either of them refreshes recollection about this event.
President, the objection raised by the Defense Counsel is denied, and the Chamber allows the documents to be shown to the witness. And Mr. Witness, please refer to the document and respond to the question that will be put to you by the prosecution.
And for the record, Mr. President, the excerpt from E3 289, that is the particular radio broadcast, is at pages Khmer 01064-303 through 307, English 00168-509 through 511, and French 01066-907 through 910. Mr. Witness, the reason I provided these documents to you is that on the 30th of June 1977, approximately 2 months after some of the documents and events we've been discussing, the Central Committee of the Communist Party of Kampuchea awarded the honorary red flag to Tram Kak District, recognizing it as one of 3 model districts in all of democratic Kampuchea. That award was both announced in the revolutionary flag issue that I gave you and announced in a radio broadcast that is in the second document I provided to you. My question, do you remember hearing that Tram Kak had been recognized by the Khmer Rouge leaders as a model district in democratic Kampuchea?
No, I did not hear about that, nor was I told about it.
This morning, you told my colleague about seeing Khieu Samphan in Tram Kak District at one point. Other than Khieu Samphan, did you see any other Khmer Rouge leaders come to Tram Kak District?
No, I did not.
What about Tamok? How often did you see him between April 1975 and January 1979?
I saw him 3 to 4 times during the regime.
And can you tell the court where it was that you...
President, the prosecution, please wait, and Defense Counsel Konsum On, you have the floor. Konsum On, thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to make an observation regarding the line of questioning by the prosecution. I think it leads to a misunderstanding that in his previous response, he stated he saw Khieu Samphan during the period of 1957 or 58. And then the National Court Prosecutor tried to clarify whether it was in 67 or 68. However, just then, the International Court Prosecutor tries to link the year of the year that the witness encountered or made the Tamok through the time or the year that the witness saw Mr. Khieu Samphan, that is, put the time in between 75 to 79. And that is my observation, Mr. President.
I'll respond briefly. First, I wasn't making any link. Second, counsel, you've completely misstated the evidence from this morning. This witness testified to two things. One, that he heard that Khieu Samphan came to meet with Tamok in 57 to 58, 67 to 68. Second, he testified that during the period he was working at the Kapork Trebek Dam on one day, he went with the wife of Tamok and saw Khieu Samphan. Two separate testimonies. In any event, there's no link being made here. I'm asking this witness now about when he saw Tamok. That's the question.
President, the Deputy International Court Prosecutor, in fact, you may proceed. There is no need to wait for the ruling from the chamber, as the Defense Counsel only made an observation and not an objection. Defense Counsel, the co-prosecutor just stated that he saw Khieu Samphan at Kapork Trebek, and I think this is just like to feed the information to the witness. President and the Deputy International Co-Prosecutor, please rephrase your last question to the witness.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Witness, you said you remember seeing Tamok 3 or 4 times during the Khmer Rouge regime. Can you tell us where it was that you would see Tamok?
I saw Tamok while he was in a vehicle, and I was working alongside the road. And in fact, there was only one time that he stopped his car near where I worked, but he didn't get off the car.
On any of these occasions, did you talk to Tamok when he was driving on the road near your hospital?
No, I did not talk to him. I only saw him, and then I just went away. I didn't want to see him, as I was scared of him.
Why were you scared of Tamok?
I did not know why. I just I was scared of him, and I was not the only one. Many other people felt the same thing.
While we're talking about Tamok, I wanted to ask you a few questions about some of his relatives, and in particular, whether they had positions in the Khmer Rouge regime. This morning, you've already identified for my colleague a brother of Tamok named Chum. Did Tamok also have a brother named Chong? And if so, what position did Chong hold during the Khmer Rouge regime?
Tamok had a younger brother by the name of Chom. He was the Kapork Trebek commune chief.
Okay, perhaps my pronunciation was not very good. I was talking about the other brother of Tamok, a person who I believe was named Chong. Did you know Chong? Did you know what position he held during the regime?
I know that his younger brother named Chong. He was the deputy secretary of District 55, that is Kabah district.
And you discussed this morning a sister of Tamok named Kun, who held a position at the zone or sector hospital. Was this the sister who was married to Tassan?
Yes. Kun was the wife of Tassan.
And I just wanted to clarify something about the hospitals, the sector hospitals. In your DC CAM interview, D313/1.2.409 at Khmer 00418-835, English 00729-050, and French 00808-631, you stated as follows, quote, sector health centers were located in Dum Chambok School and Trapyang Ronib, end of quote. I wanted you to clarify two things. One, were there more than one sector health center, more than one sector hospital? And second, can you clarify which hospital it was that Kun worked at?
The zone hospital, that's for the general treatment. There was one at Chambok, and there was a military hospital for the treatment of soldiers. It was at that is Hospital 22, and there was a sector hospital at Trapyang Ronib that was for the general treatment of people as well.
And the military hospital, the one called Hospital 22, where was that located?
Hospital 22 was located at Podok, Trapyang Thom Khang Cheung.
And which of these hospitals was the one that Kun worked at?
Kun worked in the hospital located at Daum Chambok.
And I'd like to turn now to a few questions about the daughters of Tamok. We've already talked about one of his daughters, Kom, who you identified as a Tram Kok district secretary for a period. Did Tamok have another daughter named Hao or Ho? And what positions did she hold during the Khmer Rouge regime?
As for the children of Tamok, I only know one, that is Kom, because I did not know the other daughters as they were not at home while I was there.
So you don't, do I understand you correctly, you don't remember his other daughters well enough to tell us whether they had positions in any hospitals in the Southwest Zone?
Answer, yes.
I want to turn now to a matter you testified about in your OCIJ interviews, and that is a trip you made to Krang Tachan prison. In interview E319.1.21 at answer 125, you described this visit to Krang Tachan prison testifying as follows, quote, Many prisoners died of malaria at the prison then. Tachim, who was district committee, wrote a letter to my hospital requesting us to spray DDT inside the prison to kill mosquitoes. When I got there, I saw many prisoners. And continuing below at answers 128 to 130, question: were those prisoners shackled when you saw them? Answer: I saw all of them lying on the floor. There were about 3 or 4 rows of them. A question: did you talk to the chairman of Krang Tachan prison? Answer: yes, I talked with him, and he gave instructions on where to spray the insecticide. Question: how many times did you spray at Krang Tachan prison? Answer: only once. You indicated in this statement that many prisoners had died of malaria at the prison. How did you know this?
Answer: I was aware of it because if the prisoner did not die of malaria, I would not be called to spray the insecticide.
Do you remember when it was that you made this trip to spray insecticide in Krang Tachan? Do you remember the year?
Answer: I did not recall it. I did not know when it was.
You indicated that when you were there, you talked to the chairman of Krang Tachan prison, who gave you instructions on where to spray the insecticide. Who was the prison chairman that you talked to?
Answer: it was An, the prison chief. He asked me to spray the insecticides.
And do you remember approximately how long you were at Krang Tachan that day while you were spraying the insecticides?
Answer: I was there for half an hour, and I spray 5 buckets of the insecticide. I was there for half an hour.
In your interview E3/5511 at answer number 18, you made the following statement, quote, while spraying, I met a man from Hanoi who was also a prisoner, but he was outside the cell. I asked him to take care of Han. And I'm going to ask you some more questions about Han later. First, I want to ask you about this man from Hanoi. Who was this man who you saw at Krang Tachan, and how did you know he was from Hanoi?
Answer: I knew that he was from Hanoi because after his arrival from Hanoi, he worked with the commune chief. He went to various commune chiefs, to various communes. He was at Hanoi for 3 years, and after that he returned back to Cambodia, and he went to communes with the commune chiefs. I knew him because he was walking around with the commune chiefs.
So this is someone who had been in Hanoi for 3 years, but then had returned and had a position in Tram Kok district? Do I understand correctly?
Answer: yes, that is correct.
Do you remember the name of this person?
Answer. His name was Jia.
And also in regards to your visit to Krang Tachan, do you remember approximately how many prisoners were there on the day that you visited the prison?
Answer. I looked into one building. There were four rows of prisoner. So there were about 100 prisoners, and after I glanced into the building, I walked away.
Mr. President, I was going to change to another subject now. I can either continue or move to the new subject after the break.
President, it is now appropriate time for a short break. The court will take a short break from now until 3 o'clock. Court officer, please find a proper place for the witness during the break time and have him returned together with his duty counsel back into the courtroom at 3 o'clock. The court is now adjourned.
សូមចេញក្រោកឈរ